And welcome back, guys. So you are now all pros at moving around in 3D space and navigating around your grid and doing all those fancy things. Getting your fingers to get a bit of little cardio in, if one could say so. So let's get into customizing our user interface. So the first thing you need to know is Maya already comes with pre-built layouts for your user interface, depending on what phase in the project you're in. So currently we are in the modeling layout, as we can see up here. Workspace, Maya Classic, which kind of shows everything that you need to know in the default Maya layout. And of course, we are on modeling. But if we just want to go inside our workspace, we can go to modeling standard, which changes our viewport. As you can see, it removed our time slider and range slider, put our command line to the right of the screen so that we have more screen real estate to focus on our modeling tasks, okay? Because it's all about the screen real estate, so that now we have more space to view. If I go to orthographics, you can see I've got physically more space on the monitor for my viewports. So just to go back to classic, you see we've got all these timelines and range sliders, our command line is above our help line and all that kinds of stuff. So we can go to modeling standard. You can see Maya expands our viewport a bit more to give us a bit more screen real estate. If we go into Maya Expert, you'll see even more UI elements disappear. As you can see, now Maya assumes you are pros at what you are doing. Let's go check out some other layouts. So we got some sculpting layouts when we want to play with some sculpting. So it enables our sculpting tools. We go to pose sculpting and UV editing, which we'll be diving into later on, and all the other cool stuff. So we got rigging, animation, rendering, and all the good stuff in here. But for now, I'm going to go back into my classic because I like editing my viewports to suit my needs. And also, I want to show you the hotbox to also kind of customize your view and enable and disable panels in your UI when you need them and don't need them and all that kinds of stuff. You guys might have noticed if you tap your spacebar, there's this menu that flashes where your mouse is at that point in time. That is your hotbox menu. So if I hold down spacebar, you can see it's basically everything that you see in your viewport. You see you've got your file, edit, create all the way to Windows. As you can see here, we've got Arnold for our rendering. Here we got shading and lighting. Bottom here, we've got our mesh editing tools. Then we got our rigging. Then we got our animation, simulation, and then lighting. And then we got recent commands and hotbox controls, which we can edit this region. So if I now let go of that, you see the menu disappears. If I hold down my spacebar again, it comes back. Now Maya also has different regions, as you can see with these white lines. So depending on what region you click in, certain things happen or you have access to certain options. So if I left click in the top region here, you can see I can change my layout. So I can go to hypershade, render, perspective, and as you can see, Maya is going to go and reorganize our layout to that option. If I go back in there and I want to go back to single perspective, that gives us the option. And let's try one more just for funsies. So let's go hypershade and outliner. As you can see, there's my hypershade, there's my outliner. So if I go back to hypershade or hypergraph, single perspective view. Another one is if I click on the word Maya, you can see we can quickly jump to different cameras. So I can go to my left view, which is one of the orthographic views. I can go to my back view. Doesn't look like anything is changing, but you can see the word at the bottom of the viewport change. So if I go to front view, you can see I'm on my front. Then I can go back into perspective. You can also change hotbox style if you want, but I prefer the Maya's default one because you get used to it very quickly. Just to show you how this is beneficial, I can go into the expert mode, and now because all the options are away, I can go spacebar, for example, and I can go into my left view. I can go back into perspective. I can go into my front view. I can jump into perspective and then also go change my viewport layout into perspective graph editor. And it's still seen as the expert mode because all the other clutter that we see on the monitor is gone. Okay, so this is also pretty cool. If you, again, when you hover over a viewport and you tap spacebar, it maximizes that one. So if I did that in the graph editor, it will maximize the graph editor. But this will tackle when we get into the animation section of the essentials. So I can work here and get everything that I need here. You can go in here and create, for example, meshes and cameras and lights, everything from here. You can even go in here and change what you see inside of your hotbox if you want. So let's go to one of the other regions. So if I go to the screen right region, you can see here we have access to UI elements. So if I want my shelf back, I can have my shelf back. But as you can see, I'm still in expert mode up in the top right. But maybe you like using the shelf, so you can have that in there. You can go back in and turn off the shelf, maybe turn on the range slider, turn it off, bring back the toolbox, turn off the toolbox. I can go to my channel box. I can bring that back in. As you can see, it's now floaty version because we are on expert mode, but we can dock it if we want. So if I have this menu open, as you can see, if I take it to the side of Maya, the little blue line appears and boom, we've docked it. So I can rip this thing off again. If I click on the little word channel box, rip it out, and I can dock this guy anywhere. So if I want to change the layout to suit my specific needs, you can do that. Say, for example, you prefer to have the channel box on screen left, you can have it there. And if you want to now go and say, for example, toolbox, now as you can see, it takes up the top screen space because our channel box types up. But if I grab that little double line, it pops out. As you can see, my toolbox is now ginormously long, so let's just make it a tad short. You can float it. You can now also take it and dock it here if you want. So in here, see, I can dock it there, or I can dock it as a tab. As you can see, there's my toolbox, there's my channel box, toolbox. I can rip it out and maybe put it on the other side. Maya is very flexible in the sense of that the artist can control their workspace. So if I've messed up something in expert mode, I can just go back. So let's go reset current workspace. So it resets my expert mode to default expert mode. So let's go back to Maya Classic. So in Maya Classic, again, you can go and in your screen right, turn of time slider, range slider, command line, and all that good stuff. See, I'm very close to expert mode now. If I go to the bottom region here, we've got different viewports as well, or windows. If I want to open up my graph editor, which is for animations, as you can see, it opens it up in full view mode. I can go back into outliner. As you can see now, my outliner is ginormous, and now I can switch between the last two layouts that I have. But if I want to go back to perspective, I click the little perspective button and we are back to perspective view. So now the last region is screen left. In here is different mask in the sense of how you want to work in. I want to only mask animations or deformers or polygons and all that kinds of stuff. I rarely actually use this option because I use the buttons up here in the status line a lot more than screen left region. I use the screen right region tremendous amount as well. I use the right region a considerable amount and the top region as well. If I go right next to the Maya word, as you can see, it's the same region, so you can get very quick in these things. So in here you'll see there's your mask, here's your helpline. If I go a little bit up here, you can actually see there is my different layouts for my panels, for my viewport, which is up here, and just below the word Maya we've got the big windows, and then on Maya itself I can jump to different cameras. So let's just go reset our classic to be all classic again. So I'm going to go to workplace, reset current, and that's all she sang. Now if you find a layout that you like, you can actually go in and save your current workspace and give it your own name. So for example, I want to go and hide my time slider, range slider, command line, and maybe my tools, because I sometimes forget I even have tools because I use the shortcut keys. Now I want to go and save, so I can go save workspace as, I can go call it Ryan's work space and then click OK. And now you can see I've got my very own label in there. I can also delete a workspace. So if I go back to my classic, but as you can see, I cannot delete the Maya defaults. I can only delete my own. So for example, if I set up a modeling workspace for myself, I can save it, a rendering one, animation one, and so forth. Now that I've shown you how to create and delete your workspaces, there's another option that's actually quite useful. You can actually export your workspaces so that if you're working on a machine that's not your own and you've created a workspace that is suited to your workflow, you actually have the ability to put it on a flash drive and import it into Maya and carry on working as if it's your machine at home or whatever other machine you're working on. So in the workspace options, you actually see the option import workspaces, but I don't have any workspaces saved because, as you remember, I just deleted a workspace. So let's quickly just finagle a random workspace here. And I want you to dock. Yeah, I want you to dock in. Yeah, there we go. I want that one to dock in there maybe. I would like the modeling toolkit to be on this side of the world. And then maybe my tools I can take out and then put in here. As soon as Maya allows me to grab this window, give me some space, Maya. There we go. As soon as it docks, sweet. Now I've made my own custom workspace with all my shortcut keys for modeling and all that good stuff on the one side, tools on the other side, and all that good stuff. So I'm going to quickly go and hide these bottom few rows of elements I do not need. I'm going to go into Windows, UI elements, and just pop this guy off. And I do not want my time slider, range slider, and command line. Help line could be useful. Close this. And might as well move the help line on top of my working window so that, hey, I can see help on top there. Now I've made my own custom workspace. I'm going to go to workspaces, save current workspace, and I'm going to call it the perfect workspace. I guess that is very subjective, even though this is not very perfect. Click OK. Now, as you guys know, it's there, so I can go back to my classic or to my perfect workspace. Now, if you want to export this workspace or save it in different locations so that you can import it into any Maya you open anywhere, you need to navigate to a folder on your computer. So I'm just going to drag this window in. As you can see, it's inside my documents. So if I go inside my documents, there's a Maya folder. Inside Maya, you will find the version of Maya you're working on. In my case, it's 2020. So I'm going to double click in there. And then inside there, I'm going to find preferences. Inside of preferences, you'll find workspaces. So as you can see, there is my perfect workspace. So just for interest's sake, so I'm going to go and take this guy and cut it out of here and just put it onto my desktop, and let's go restart Maya. So I'm going to reboot Maya quickly, and then when I get back, that workspace should be gone because it's no longer inside the preferences folder. So I'll catch you on the reboot. So now we're back after the reboot, and as you can see, it's back to my defaults because I removed that workspace from the preferences. So now it's laying on my desktop, so I'm going to go to workspaces, import. I'm going to navigate to my desktop. There's perfect workspace, and I'm going to click import. And as you can see, boom, there it is. I've got my workspace back. So that's a pretty cool way of taking your workflow on the go with you, because you can take that little file, put it on a flash drive, and import it in whatever Maya you're working on, as long as it's the same version of Maya. So if it's 2020 with 2020, because some of these windows and options aren't available in earlier versions of Maya, so your workspace might not load up correctly because it's going to be calling up windows and settings that don't exist in previous versions of Maya. So make sure whatever version you're working on and taking workspaces from and to are the same Maya versions so that you don't face the problem that it might not work. One more thing that I would like to cover is the background of your viewports. If you go Alt-B, you can change the background color of your viewport. I use the dark gray because it's much better on my eyes because you're going to be pulling long hours. So I use this dark gray one. I tend to stay away from the gradient one, even though a lot of artists do use it. I'm not a big fan of it, but hey, it's personal preference. So I prefer the solid gray background. It's just a lot easier on my eyes. So with all that viewport knowledge in your head now, I will let you play around and get lost within the Maya UI, and you will come to experience its depth very quickly. So enjoy your time just finagling around in 3D space. Try and break Maya's layout and resetting Maya's layout and all that good stuff. Catch you in the next lesson.